Okay, I want you to think back for a second. Who was your role model when you were growing up? Was it a famous athlete, a brilliant scientist, or maybe, just maybe, the person you admired most was a little closer to home? You know, it's something we all have, but who we choose to admire, and maybe more importantly, why? Well, that says a whole lot about our values, especially when it comes to the world of work.
So a major study from Harvard's Project Zero went out and asked this very question to young people all over the globe. They wanted to peel back the layers and really understand what good work looks like to the next generation, who embodies it for them. And I gotta tell you, the answers they found are both really inspiring and honestly a little bit surprising.
And to get these answers, the researchers didn't just skim the surface. They dug deep, analyzing 685 different student documents from 11 countries. We're talking everywhere from Colombia to Nigeria to India. So this wasn't some simple multiple-choice survey. It was a real, in-depth look into the heroes of today's youth.
So, who came out on top? You'd think in our age of influencers and global superstars, it would be a celebrity or a famous CEO, right? Nope. The #1 most admired role model isn't famous at all. It's family, and it's not even close. By a huge margin, young people are looking right at their parents, their aunts, their uncles, and their grandparents as the ultimate examples of what it means to be a good worker.
This quote right here really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about family love. It's about a deep, genuine respect for specific things they see every day. This student sees their dad's adaptability, his honesty, how reliable he is under pressure. And that tells us something huge. It's not just who they admire, it's what they admire. And that brings us to the study's first major discovery.
So across all of those different countries, all those different cultures, one set of character strengths just kept popping up, way more than any other. It's a concept that's become a bit of a buzzword lately, but for these students, it is the absolute bedrock of what makes someone great at their job.
The top 3 qualities? Being hardworking, being dedicated, and being perseverant. You put those 3 together and you get a really powerful combination that researchers have a name for: grit. It's that unstoppable drive to commit to something and just see it through, no matter what gets in your way.
And here's the official definition, which I think perfectly captures what these students were seeing in their heroes. It's not about being the smartest person in the room or the most talented. It's about having that passion and that absolute refusal to give up. And what's so incredible is how universal this idea was. It didn't matter if a student was in Turkey or Mexico, this gospel of grit was the #1 thing they valued.
And here's a perfect example. A student talking about Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't just mention the trophies or the fame. No, they zero in on the story behind it all, the hard work, the dedication, the perseverance it took to overcome poverty. That's the narrative of grit that connects so deeply with young people all over the planet.
Okay, so we've got this powerful sense of grit that young people admire in a person, but the study found another crucial piece to the puzzle. What do they admire people doing with that grit? See, it turns out it wasn't enough for a role model to just work hard for themselves. What they actually did with all that hard work was just as important.
When students describe the actions they admire, the focus was overwhelmingly on other people. The top 3 behaviors were helping others, contributing to society, and helping others learn. This is what you'd call pro-social behavior. Young people are looking for heroes who use their skills and their success to make things better for everyone.
You see, for the next generation, being a good worker isn't some solo act. It's a team sport. Excellence is totally tied to ethics and service. It's about being hardworking, for sure, but doing it for a purpose that's way bigger than just yourself.
So we have these 2 really powerful, timeless values, grit and a commitment to helping others. That's what youth admire most. But this is where the researchers found something that gave them pause, a real tension. Are these amazing qualities the most essential ones for the jobs of the future?
And that is the big, challenging question at the very heart of this study. In a world that's being completely reshaped by AI, by automation, by huge global problems, grit and compassion are always going to be vital. But are they enough all by themselves? Well, experts who study the future of work seem to point to a slightly different set of skills.
And this is where that gap becomes crystal clear. On the left, you've got what young people admire. On the right, you have the top skills the World Economic Forum says are absolutely crucial for the future. You notice what's pretty much missing from the youth's list? There's very little talk about things like creativity, analytical thinking, or tech skills. So if an entire generation is focused on hard work but overlooks the need for creative problem solving, what does that mean for the future of innovation?
So what do we do with this? Well, the study's authors argue that this isn't some flaw in young people's values.
Not at all. Instead, it's a really powerful insight for all of us, for parents, for teachers, for leaders. It's a huge opportunity to help connect the dots for the next generation.
So here's the roadmap they suggest. First, we absolutely have to keep celebrating grit and compassion. Those are the foundation of good character, non-negotiable. But second, we need to get much better at showing how role models use both grit and creativity. Think of an engineer who works tirelessly to design a new clean water system. That's grit combined with amazing analytical thinking. And finally, we need to broaden our collective idea of good work so that it specifically includes innovation, right alongside hard work and service.
And this is really the essential takeaway. It's not about telling kids their heroes are wrong. It's about helping them see the whole picture. That hardworking doctor isn't just dedicated, she's an incredible analytical thinker who's diagnosing a complex disease. The entrepreneur who helps society isn't just compassionate, he's a creative visionary who saw a solution nobody else did.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. In our own homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, how can we start having these conversations? How can we help young people see that the virtues they already admire, that grit and that service, are actually the perfect foundation to build the creative and analytical skills the future is going to demand? It's a challenge for all of us, for sure, but it's one that's absolutely critical for the next generation's success. Thanks for tuning in.